All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Midwest Mountaineering Outdoor Adventure Expo. With me, I have Rudi Hargesheimer, recent author of the Superior Hiking Trail Story. Wonderful photo book filled with lots of incredible images and uh, details and history of the Superior Hiking Trail. It's a must read for sure. We sell it here at Midwest Mountaineering. Um, we are live at the outdooradventureexpo.com site. There at the site, there's a chat box below the viewer window where you can type questions. We should have enough time for any questions at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, here's Rudi. Take it away.
Okay, thanks, Adon. So what you see there is the cover of my book. I don't want to hype just the book, but just to describe it a little bit, it's 10 inches by 12 inches, 400 color photographs, and 160 pages hardcover. This presentation is one I've adapted from previous for the Outdoor Adventure Expo. And I took the liberty to plug the Parks and Trails Council of Minnesota more than normal in this presentation also, because they deserve a lot of credit, along with, of course, the Superior Hiking Trail Association. So the Superior Hiking Trail Association is the volunteer-based group out of Two Harbors that manages the trail and the volunteers that help build and maintain the trail. Parks and Trails Council of Minnesota does behind the scenes assistance that most people don't know about to help make it possible. I was a board member for 12 years of both of those organizations. And I was, for 6 of the 12 years with the Superior Hiking Trail, I was the president. Currently, I'm writing articles for Minnesota Trails magazine. I was a manager at Midwest Mountaineering, where I worked for 40 years, retiring in 2016. And I own my little photo business called North Shore Photo Art. And there will be a link to that and the Superior Hiking Trail Association and Parks and Trails Council on the last image that I show. So back in the 70s and 80s, I traveled a lot to the North Shore and was getting into photography and taking nature shots like this. And all of that was wonderful. And one day in 1986, I discovered this sign in the woods that I hadn't seen before. And I hadn't seen it before, which was remarkable to me, because I thought I had already known every single hiking trail, ski trail, climbing area, etc. on the North Shore. I'd already done them all. So when I saw this sign, I was very intrigued. And lo and behold, the next weekend, July 20th, 1986, this article appeared in the Star Tribune newspaper in Minneapolis. And it talked about this brand new Superior Hiking Trail Association starting and getting money from the Legislative Commission on Minnesota Resources through the state government in St. Paul. They took tax money, which they got from cigarette tax proceeds and lottery dollars, and put it toward environmental projects. And Superior Hiking Trail had applied for money as an environmental project, and we got it. They got about $400,000 to start building the trail, 1986. So that led to hiking on the trail and seeing all the different vistas and panoramic views and beautiful waterfalls and mountaintops that are available on the Superior Hiking Trail. Caribou Falls, Gooseberry Falls, Jay Cook State Park, St. Louis River, Wolf Ridge, the Cadence River, the Manitou Cascades. These are all places that the hiking trail currently goes to. Split Rock River, Mount Trudy, the Beaver River, Oberg Mountain is one of the more popular spots. Lake Agnes and the Cascade River. So along the trail, there's 13 different trail register logbooks, might be more now. And in it, people write their comments about what they're experiencing on the day they were there. And Jack Morris, one of our Superior Hiking Trail Association Ridgeline newspaper editors, started calling them sentiments from the heart and printing them in the newsletters. And I often said that I had the perfect photograph to go with the sentiment that somebody else had written. I should make a book, I said. And as long as I'm at it, showing pictures, I might as well talk about the history of how the trail got built. So with 30 years of experience, including building, maintaining, helping manage and promoting the hiking trail for the Superior Hiking Trail Association, I tackled this endeavor. Now the book is not actually a Superior Hiking Trail Association project. They didn't ask me to do it. I did it. I hope it helps the Trail Association. They sell quite a few books. And of course, it does educate the hikers, people like you, about how the trail came to be. And I think that's important. If you don't know much yet, the Superior Hiking Trail is 310 miles long. It's volunteer maintained, member supported, over 5,000 members. There's 94 campsites. We used to say first come, first serve, because there's no registration fee and there's no reserving it for yourself. What it really is, instead of first come, first serve, is everyone welcome. So if you are the first person at a campsite, you may not be the only one. Somebody else will show up and you're supposed to share it. There's 83 different sections of the trail, and each one's adopted by a trail maintenance volunteer or group, like a Boy Scout group that routinely maintains the trail. It's easy access. There's quite a few roads that cross it, so you can do chunks of it instead of all 310 miles at once, and which is what most people do. And there's over 50 parking areas at these trailhead access points. What most people don't know is the Superior Hiking Trail Association is responsible for the parking areas too. We actually built them. So you go to a parking area with a gravel spot, gravel little parking lot that fits 10 cars. That wasn't there before, and we built it with the money we got from volunteers and from projects where we raised money. That's the table of contents from the book. Basically, I just want to say it's in chronological or geographic order. Starts at the Wisconsin border and goes all the way to the Canadian border, 310 miles in chapters. So this is the heading of one of the chapters, Chapter 7, Temperance River State Park to Cascade River State Park. Each chapter starts out with this. It's just a reference map, definitely not a detailed map for guiding you on the trail. The Superior Hiking Trail Association publishes an excellent guidebook, which is necessary for actually hiking the trail and finding about all the details. A short section of my book is a short history of the long trail. And in a nutshell, I'll say a few things here. It started when Lee Shar, in the photograph at upper right, an employee of the Superior National Forest offices in Tofte, wrote a thesis at Clemson University about how a trail could be built along the ridgeline of Lake Superior, connecting the different state parks and the national forests and the different resorts. And his thesis suggested that it be done like the Appalachian Trail out east, where as a cooperative effort. John Schell, cooperative effort of all of those above groups, including buy-in from the resort owners to help manage it. And that would require a Superior Hiking Trail Association, the volunteer-based organization to manage it. It's not run by the DNR. It's not run by the National Forests. It's run by the Superior Hiking Trail Association. John Schell, the regional parks administrator for Northeast Minnesota from the DNR, thought this was a great idea and he jumped on it. It was his effort, more than anybody else's, that got the people in St. Paul to pay attention and get that grant money from the Legislative Commission on Minnesota Resources. It got okayed, they got the grant money. They hired Tom Peterson, who was just finished building the North Shore Trail, not to be confused with the Superior Hiking Trail. The North Shore State Trail was a snowmobile trail, and he had just finished working on that and was looking for something to do. And the DNR said, Tom, why don't you start working for the Superior Hiking Trail Association? He was still technically a DNR employee, but he was on loan to us, the Superior Hiking Trail Association. Nine years later, the money ran out, and the trail became exclusively dependent on volunteers, other fundraising, and a lot of hard work from the Superior Hiking Trail Association to get the people and the money to continue building the trail, because at that time it was 205 miles long. So here's an image of volunteers. That's Kim Fishburne using the McLeod to literally grub the trail into the earth. And they had, we had various opportunities for volunteers to work on the trail. These pictures happen to be taken between Duluth and Two Harbors. The picture in the bottom left is Corky Nordic, a ski chalet building for cross-country skiing. And that's where people would meet to get assigned duties to go out on the trail and build the trail. Lots of volunteer effort. So starting somewhat in chronological or a geographic order, I'm not starting for you at the Wisconsin border, but the book does. My first image here geographically is Duluth. And there was a lot of effort that went into this. Over 700 volunteers built the trail through Duluth. Larry Sampson in the red shirt was a primary leader of those people. He was a contract employee of the Hiking Trail Association. Judy Gibbs down below and John Green and others were very influential in where the trail went and getting the volunteers on board. The picture shows Mayor Emily Larson of Duluth inaugurating for 3 TV cameras the beginning of the Ely's Peak Loop. Jumping a long ways, geographically, we're up at Gooseberry Falls State Park. And I like to highlight a lot of things about the North Shore that help explain why the Superior Hiking Trail is where it is. So here's a picture taken in about 1906. it's the mouth of the Gooseberry River. And there's a logging train there. They've logged the forests up above, had temporary railroads that came down with the logs, and then they rafted the logs off to the mills in Duluth or Ashland. And what's that got to do with the Superior Hiking Trail 80 years later? Well, we actually use some of the old logging railroad transit ways. The logging companies groomed the trail for the train and abandoned it. It grew back into forest. But when you go there hiking now on the Superior Hiking Trail, you'll encounter vestiges of those old railroads. Now, there's some exciting news that's new right now, March, and this coming summer. A private landowner who had previously given an easement to the Trail Association to cross his land reneged on his easement several years ago. And ever since then, there's been a detour at Gooseberry where the trail had to reroute down to the Gitchigami Bicycle Trail and then come back up onto the ridge to get to Split Rock Lighthouse. Well, this year, the plans are to build a new reroute around the backside of Gooseberry Falls State Park. So that's literally brand new news, and hopefully it'll be done by the fall. At Split Rock, which was inaugurated and made possible way back when by Judge C.R. Magney, and we're going to talk more about him later. This is Gold Rock Point. That's Split Rock Lighthouse, of course. Big tourist attraction down on the lakeshore. The hiking trail doesn't go exactly right here. It follows up along the Split Rock River and then stays up on the ridge. This detailed map shows how Judge Magney's organization that he started in 1954, well, it was called the Parks Foundation of Minnesota, now called the Parks and Trails Council of Minnesota, made something important possible here. The green areas are parts of Split Rock Lighthouse State Park that would not be there without Parks and Trails Council coming in and literally buying the land and then turning around and selling it to the state. Parks and Trails Council's goal is to break even when they do that and help the state acquire necessary land. And how that affects the hiking trail is the bottom left. The Bread Loaf Overlook was on private land, and it became part of the state park because the Parks and Trails Council wanted to help the Superior Hiking Trail, preserve that corridor. And the land got purchased so that the Superior Hiking Trail easement still exists. It's a pretty given easement. It's going through the state park. Beautiful view from that point. Split Rock River is fantastic. It's a 5-mile loop hike that you can do from the highway up to where the bridge used to be and back. This is the last bridge, bridge number 5, and it's gone. If you do this loop, you have to wet foot it across the river. And as of last year, the Superior Hiking Trail Association has decided they don't intend to replace the bridge. Now, I know Rod Johnson at Midwest Mountaineering is extremely upset about this and really wants that bridge to exist and had donated quite a bit of money to help build the bridge. But the Hiking Trail Association has decided that it's just way too cumbersome a project, that to do it according to St. Paul's standards, and everything now has to be done according to St. Paul engineering standards, unlike in the old days when we volunteers just went out there and quickly threw up a bridge. So right now, the bridge doesn't exist. There will be no bridge. Also, in the woods there, the Superior Hiking Trail is looking pretty rough. This is the worst possible picture I could come up with. Absolutely the worst of bad trail conditions. And it will be fixed. This is in the state park. So within Split Rock Lighthouse State Park, the park manages it, and the park dictates where we can go and when we can go. And the problem here is it's bad slumping soil, and the trail shouldn't be there. But the options for rerouting the trail to avoid this are slim. It hasn't been decided yet where the trail should go. So that's yet to happen. That is considered one of the big bad five. Split Rock, Gooseberry reroute, Bean and Bear Lakes up ahead, Britton and Oberg-Lutzen, heavy use areas that need help with trail maintenance. Here at Tetigoo State Park, the book tells the story of how all this beautiful land came to be part of the park and allow the Superior Hiking Trail to pass through. It's there in the fine print. But over on the right, the little sidebar, my book has quite a few of these where people are quoted. So it's the quote there says, "Hope this area is protected by the Nature Conservancy and added to Tetigoo State Park." That's written by MS and JS, Parks and Trails Council of Minnesota. Well, it turns out they are Mark and Joan Strobel, and they, with the Nature Conservancy, helped make this happen. The land was bought by Nature Conservancy and Parks and Trails Council assistance, and then was added to the park. There's some really fun details about that are in the book. In Tetigoo State Park are some of the iconic highlights of the Superior Hiking Trail. It's Bean and Bear Lake, big, overlooks looking down on interior lakes. You think of the Superior Hiking Trail as being above Lake Superior, and it is. There's great views, but also great views looking the opposite direction. Now here again, Parks and Trails Council deserves some credit. Bean and Bear Lakes down there in the lower left where the green boxes are, that was private land, and Parks and Trails Council stepped in and helped buy that land. This was actually after the hiking trail had already been built, but they, Parks and Trails Council, helped preserve the view shed of the Superior Hiking Trail, because that could have been developed into townhouses or condos or homes right there in those beautiful places. Also, they're working on and have done a lot along the Baptism River and down on the lakeshore. That's a quick view of the most recent project on the lakeshore, and Pigeon Falls, which was added by Parks and Trails Council. More history here. The picture on the left is on the Superior Hiking Trail. Folks on the top of that cliff are taking a lunch break, and they're looking down and they notice a glint of metal shining in the sunlight at the bottom of the cliff. And if you poke around down there, you'll find the remnants of the old mining effort. This was a man-made cliff face. And what the reason it was man-made is because they were quarrying the rock to be hauled down by cable car to the crushing plant, 6 stories tall, built 1 mile away on Crystal Bay in what's now Tetigoo State Park. This is in the early 1900s, and it was a failed effort. The rock turned out to be no good at all for what it was intended to be for, which was sandpaper. But the company did go on and learn how to make sandpaper out of other rock, and they started out with the name Minnesota Mining, They changed their name more recently to 3M. So this right here, that cliff face on the left and that building are the beginnings of the 3M company on the Superior Hiking Trail. This is at Wolf Ridge. The picture is taken from Marshall Mountain, looking down on Wolf Lake and Lake Superior, and the Superior Hiking Trail runs through the picture left to right on the ridgeline parallel to the lake. From there, it goes to Sawmill Dome and then section 13 cliffs. This is section 13. This is section 13. The story here is the ridgeline in the background. The trail came here and it dead ended for a long time. The problem was the ridgeline in the back was privately owned by one landowner who owned about 2 miles worth of potential Superior Hiking Trail corridor. And we asked him, I was directly involved in this, we asked him, I don't know, maybe 10 times to please let us cross his land, and he always said no. So myself and Ken Elkers, a super volunteer with the trail, started dreaming up a different way to get around that 2-mile gap. So we made trail that went down to the bottom of these cliffs and through this land. This is Eggy Lake. That's Lake Superior in the back. The picture is taken from a Forest Service lookout tower. The trail itself is in the maple forest along the lake shore. There's a couple nice campsites down there. What we did was come up with a 15.8-mile detour around the 2-mile gap. And it's nice. That's the Baptism River. And again, Parks and Trails Council came to the rescue here. This is Crosby Manitou State Park map, and all the green was added to the park by Parks and Trails Council, because in previous to the trail coming through, the hiking trail, Superior Hiking Trail, there was a lot of paper company land in the area. The paper company wanted to sell, and it was that land that was critical for the Superior Hiking Trail to come through. So Parks and Trails Council arranged this complicated land transfer whereby the paper company land got transferred to the county. It'd still be logged, but now the county owned it and would get the proceeds from the logging. And the county in turn turned over some of its land at Crosby Manitou State Park to the park. This is on the old dead end of trail, Superior Hiking Trail, that used to exist, coming down from Crosby Manitou Park to the south to that 2-mile gap. Huge beaver dam that mysteriously got dynamited open, and nobody knows how that happened. The trail's gone now because it's not needed. Crosby Manitou State Park is wonderful. The Manitou River cascades through it, multiple rapids and waterfalls and cascades. This is Manitou Cascades, the biggest of them. Here's a bridge, one of the original bridges. You can see how significant the river is and how absolutely necessary a bridge was at this point. And it's deep in a canyon at Crosby Manitou State Park. And it was very difficult to build this bridge with labor. And, but it was built with lumber, like most of the old bridges were in 1991. The bridge lumber was purchased by Midwest Mountaineering. So Midwest Mountaineering, among other people, groups, businesses, have donated money over and over and over again to help the Superior Hiking Trail. In this case, the bridge lasted about 10 or 15 years and was replaced with a much better bridge, not built out of lumber. The lumber twists and sags and bends and eventually breaks. The way to do it now, if you can, is use helicopter support haul in all the concrete you need, all the water you need to make the concrete, because the river water is not good enough, and all the steel or fiberglass components to build a bridge. And of course, that's very expensive. And on parkland, we're very fortunate to have the state parks help finance those hiking trail bridges. This is Caribou Falls. This is an unusual view of Caribou Falls. It's taken from what used to be the Superior Hiking Trail. It's written about in the book. Ken Elkers and Toivo Savonen, super volunteers from Silver Bay, thought it would be a good idea to make the Caribou Falls Trail a loop, and they did. But the parks that the state that managed that land decided, no, hold on, this is not such a good idea, that the land erodes away too quickly. And so this section that led to here is now closed. But you can see a fantastic view of the falls from the other side on the legitimate current spur trail that leads down from the Superior Hiking Trail to Highway 61 at Caribou Wayside. The covered bridge is Ken Elkers' tribute bridge. Ken Elkers, the super volunteer, wanted a covered bridge and he built it. And there's a story that goes along with that at the same spot. There's a campsite there. And below the campsite is this dark hole in the rock on the right, where it's a mine, where somebody in the past dug a hole into the rock looking for gold or silver or copper, and they didn't find it. So they gave up. But when they got done, the river, the creek, still Crystal Creek, collapsed a hole through the roof of the mine shaft. So now the river, the creek, runs down the creek valley, falls into the old mine shaft and comes out the mine shaft. It's below these guys' feet. Temperance River is fantastic. The swimming there is verboten. You're not supposed to do that. There is a nice swimming hole upstream at below the uppermost of the waterfalls. Carlton Peak is a highlight. It's one of the single most significant, most popular highlights of the whole trail. And that's because when you're driving by Tofty, where Bluefin Bay is, and lots of other resorts, you can actually see this rounded mountain. It looks like a mountain. It sticks up on all four sides like a mountaintop, a dome of rock. Most of the other mountains are actually ridges of escarpments that are steep and beautiful, but not four-sided mountains. Now there's a trail register logbook up on Carlton Peak. And long ago, I was paging through there. I put in a lot of trail sentiments. Sentiments from the heart are in the book. Poetry, nice comments about the weather and about enjoying the trail so much and honoring somebody who's lost in their lives, and lots of sentiments. One of them was this: we came looking for Vivian Johnson's ghost. And of course, I was very intrigued by that. So I went to the Cross River Heritage Site and asked who Vivian Johnson was. And sure enough, that's her. She used to man the lookout tower. And the lookout tower was on top of Carlton Peak in the 1950s. That photograph was from 1953 from the Milwaukee Sentinel Journal. So just beyond Carlton Peak is Britton Peak, which is actually just a bump on the ridge, a small peak. But it happens to be the very first spot where the Superior Hiking Trail started to be built in 1987, July 5th, 1987. There's the log cutting ceremony, the old mimeograph sheet photo. I'll read quickly. Left to right, Steve Thorne, Deputy Commissioner of the Minnesota DNR. He also became the president of the Superior Hiking Trail Association. Marlene Johnson, a lieutenant governor at that time. James Obastar, the congressman from that district, plus Blaine Fenstead and Beth Blank, resort owners. All of which are typical of the cooperating entities that make the Superior Hiking Trail possible. Oberg Mountain. This is probably, besides Carlton Peak, the #1 most visited spot. It's a loop trail that leads to the top. Superior Hiking Trail proper, the main non-loop linear trail, runs through the woods down below this cliff. That's Oberg Lake. Beautiful at fall color time. And eventually we get to the Cascade River. Here the hiking trail runs up both sides of the river away from the lake for about 4 miles each side. So it makes a nice 8-mile loop hike. Great for a day hike, but extremely rugged. It's a rough 8 miles. There's fishermen in this picture. This is the lowest of the waterfalls. And this is as far as the salmon and the steelhead can make it. So the fishermen seasonally do their best to catch a few, as do the otters. Up by Grand Marais, there's some more history. This is actually where the Superior Hiking Trail, again, used to be. Half of my book, not half, 10% of my book outlines how the Superior Hiking Trail has come and gone from certain places. So this is a gone place. It's the top of the hill above Grand Marais. That's Grand Marais in the background. And that's a ski chalet for the Sawtooth Mountains ski area, which no longer exists. You go there now and there's nothing but forest. The hiking trail used to go right by here. The foundations of the building are visible. Now it's just a local hiking trail for the people that know it. And the Superior Hiking Trail was rerouted because we had a better option. Instead of going to this place and then onto a 3-mile gravel road walk in the past, the trail is now 100% in the woods, beautiful hiking trail, but it doesn't go here. It does go here. Pincushion Mountain. One of the better views looking down on the lake. Intriguing in this picture is the fact that that valley, or the trees, and the golden trees in the background, host a deep and narrow canyon, the Devil Trap River Canyon. That's where ice climbers go to climb Nightfall, 210-foot vertical ice fall, and where one of the more significant, harder to build bridges across the Devil Trap River exist. My book gives quite a bit of a story about how this came to be. It wasn't easy. And then the red line is the Superior Hiking Trail. The blue line is the Devil Trap River. The yellow box is a 40-acre parcel of land, privately owned. And the Superior Hiking Trail Association had an easement to cross that land. And it had to. There's no other way up and out of the canyon. Well, the guy who owned the land wanted to sell it. And he didn't want to make the easement a mandatory part of the sale because it would be easier to sell without it. So Parks and Trails Council, again, comes to Superior Hiking Trail's rescue and buys that land. And they still own it. Most of the time, the Parks and Trails Council of Minnesota buys land with the intention of turning around and selling it to the state of Minnesota for parks. In this case, the parks don't want it. The Superior Hiking Trail does want it, but can't afford it. And so Parks and Trails Council is just gracious enough to let us use their land. That's Rod Johnson, owner of Midwest Mountaineering, getting his feet wet, climbing in the Temperance River Canyon. The trail itself is up on top of the bluff, on top of the cliff, and looks down into this deep, narrow canyon. It's fantastic. These are some poetry written on the, put on the screen here by me. They're sentiments from the heart, from the Trail Register logbooks. This is deep in the Temperance Canyon. Moving along, we come to the Lake Walk. It's 1.6, I believe, miles of walking on the beach, which is unusual. It's the only place where the trail comes literally right down to the beach on Lake Superior. There's another lake walk in Duluth that's part of the trail, but it's the city maintained paved sidewalk above the lake, just above the lake. Here you can literally get your feet wet in the lake. Now, Judge Magney, who they named the park after him, Judge Magney State Park, he was directly involved in 16 different parks and waysides on the North Shore. They're listed there. And it's quite incredible. Without him, back in the 50s, 40s and 50s, helping 30s, 40s, and 50s, helping create these state parks through his influence as the mayor of Duluth and a Supreme Court justice for Minnesota. A lot of where the Superior Hiking Trail exists now would not have been possible. At Magney Park, the big featured attraction is the Devil's Kettle. This is a picture of it in flood. Normally, at normal water levels, there's a channel on the left and a channel on the right, and they're separated by a rock band. And the channel on the left drops into a hole and disappears. So it's a mystery as to where the water goes, or it used to be. They figured it out in 2017. I won't get into it. Just, it's in the book. It's a pretty simple answer. Now, these flower pictures are here for a reason. Sensitive, wait 1 year. From Judge Magney State Park, the trail had to continue northward toward Canada. But it was one of the later additions to the trail. And by this time, the land managers were making more hoops to jump through for the Trail Association to build trail. So we had to wait a year for the state to hire botanists, biologists to go out and survey the land ahead of us to make sure we weren't treading on any sensitive plants or environments that were too sensitive for a trail to be built. It took literally over a year. But that trail, it got built and it leads up to Moose Country by Carlson Ponds. And then to the Wrangell or the Otter Lake Road, right up near the Canadian border. It crosses that road and goes up to what's called the 270-degree overlook. And this is not the 270-degree overlook, but the trail at that point ends. The Superior Hiking Trail stops at the 270-degree overlook, which overlooks Canada. But right there, the Border Route Trail connects and takes off going west across the boundary waters. That's where this picture is. That's Rose Lake on the Border Route Trail. And the Border Route Trail in turn connects with the Kakakabik Trail, which goes another 40 miles. Border Route 60 miles. Kakakabik's 40 miles. So for 100 more miles, 310 plus 100 is 410 miles from near Ely to the Wisconsin border by Duluth. You can go on a nice, really long backpacking trip in Minnesota. And all of that is part of either even bigger 4,600 mile National Scenic Trail, the North Country National Scenic Trail from North Dakota to Vermont. Now, only a couple more pictures. This one is of the high falls, and you're probably wondering, well, why is he showing that? And the reason is because in 1991, we built the Superior Hiking Trail Association. I was involved at that time, and I was hiking on these trails immediately after they were built. The trail did go here, or almost. The trail was built from Grand Portage Reservation, Mount Josephine, to within half a mile of the border along the ridgeline. And that would have ended up right here at Pigeon High Falls, Grand Portage State Park. Well worth going to, even though today it's got nothing to do with the Superior Hiking Trail. Again, we have Mark and Joan Strobel. They were fond of trying to figure out how high all these waterfalls really are. And I've got their statistics in the book because they're not the same as what the parks tell you they are. They're different. Waterfalls are not quite as tall as people think. And this whole park was made possible by Parks and Trails Council and their effort. This is Mount Josephine, looking down on the Suzy Islands and Isle Royale. That used to be the Superior Hiking Trail. And that, I think, eats up my time, leaves a little bit of time for some questions if there are any. There's some websites you can contact. And in red at the bottom, it says if you want to purchase the book, right now is a good time to do it because they're on sale during the Outdoor Adventure Expo at Midwest Mountaineering. So with that, I'll let Adon inform us if there's any questions.
Hi, Rudy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. I was just double checking on my mics here. I don't see any questions in the chat here. I just want to say I had not had an opportunity I've not had an opportunity to hike much of the SHT. Mostly in and around some of the state parks, but this really just kind of opens it up. And I know, in the last couple of years, due to the pandemic, the SHT's gotten a lot more visitors, which is great. The more exposure, the better. I guess I'd ask. I have a question. How can people who are interested in helping the SHT? What are some ways that they can do that?
Okay, that's a good question. So the website there, www.superiorhiking.org, is the Hiking Trail Association website. And there's some information there about how volunteers can help. Right now, because of the pandemic, it's not as significant as in the past. They are limiting the ability of bunch of volunteers getting together and spreading disease amongst each other.
Makes sense.
But there are some limited opportunities, and they're going to outline those, and there'll be more this coming summer. Mm-hmm. But right now it's scaled way back.
Yeah,
so
that would make
hopefully sense. It'll get back on board, and people that want to help will certainly be able to help. In the meantime, they can help with financial contributions.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely one way to support. There's I know with a lot of some of the other hiking trails in our state, the Powwow, the Keck, etc. There's a lot of sort of at times sort of volunteer groups that go and clear the trail or maintain the trail. So there's a lot of different ways to help the SHT or any other trail, like you said, either financially or through actual labor, if and when that's an actual option post-pandemic, hopefully. Curious about your sort of the equipment that you use for your photography. What kind of gear have you been toting around these days?
Well, in the old days, some of those original photographs from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and I was a late convert to digital at all. I didn't even buy a digital camera until 2009.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, so they were color slides, and I shot Fuji Velvia,
yeah,
which
that
slide film, which has a punched color for landscape photography, which I always liked.
Yeah.
And nowadays with digital, I kind of mimic that.
Yeah.
You can put settings on in your camera that give you the vivid greens and blues and reds.
Oh, nice.
And so that's what I do with a Canon camera and 3 different lenses. Well, 6 different lenses, but normally I only carry 3. And one's 500 millimeters. So that's very long for bird photography, that type of thing. Although I use it a lot for landscapes too. And my go-to camera is a zoom that's in the middle ranges, and then a wide or very wide angle lens for panoramic landscape views.
Nice. Not to put you on the spot, but I sort of maybe am thinking maybe reaching out and seeing if you'd be interested in doing a sort of outdoor nature photography presentation one day. You have some great work. Maybe you've done that in the past. I haven't been a part of all the expos. I know you have been a part of many more expos than I have. Having worked at Midwest for 40 years.
Yeah, I worked at Midwest for 40 years, and since 1985, there's been, well, since 1988, I think it was, there's been 2 expos a year, every year.
Yeah. I think this is our 70th.
So, and I did presentations at every one of them.
Yeah, and I think you and I overlapped maybe 4 years or so. Yeah, so I enjoyed definitely my time working with you. I don't see any other questions coming in. I just want to say thanks for your time and your story and sharing the Superior Hiking Trail story and your wonderful photography. Rudy's right. Now's a great time to purchase that book at Midwest Mountaineering. The whole store is on sale until Sunday, May 2nd. This is one of many more presentations we have going on virtually. You can find them on the outdooradventureexpo.com site or on our YouTube page within about a day or two after they've presented live. So thanks again, Rudy. Thanks to the viewers out there. And if you have any questions on the outdoors or how to volunteer, definitely stop by the shop where we can definitely connect you with some of the right organizations and or people. Thanks, Rudy.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.